What's going on, guys? So it's been a long day today, and a lot of information came out in that affidavit. It was so much longer than we expected it to be. It's like 19 pages long, and we're going to read every bit of it. I'm going to post them up so you can read along with me, but I'm going to read them. When anything jumps out at me, we're going to stop and we're going to discuss it for a minute. But I'm sure there's going to be plenty of things that are discussion worthy that we don't get a chance to stop and go over, because this is already going to be a long video with a 19-page report. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate it if you stay the whole time. There's going to be a lot of information come out in this affidavit. Now, I haven't got to read the affidavit yet because I've been at work all day and I'm just now getting home, but I have been watching the news. So while I read this is the first time I'm reading it. You're going to get my instant reaction, my instant thoughts. Hopefully we can keep this pretty short. I mean, relatively short. It's 19 pages. It's going to be a long video, especially with me giving in other input that I'm thinking about after I get done reading certain parts of it. So it's not going to be a short video, but hopefully we can keep it as short as possible. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience. It means a lot that you care what my thoughts are even on this. Let's get into it. One more thing, guys. Different background. It's a work in progress. This is not my finished product. I understand a lot of people are going to say go back to the green screen. It was better, but it won't be. By the time I get done with this, it's going to be awesome. Right now, I just threw it together so I can try to hurry up and get this video done. Let's get into it. Exhibit A, Statement of Brett Payne. The below information is provided by Brett Payne, who is a duly appointed, qualified, and acting peace officer with the County of Idaho, State of Idaho. Brett Payne is employed by Moscow Police Department in the official capacity or position of corporal, and has been a trained and qualified peace officer for approximately 4 years. CPL Payne is being assisted by members of the Idaho State Police and agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. On November 13, 2022, at approximately 4 p.m., Moscow Police Department MPD Sergeant Blaker and I responded to 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, hereafter the King Road residence, to assist with the scene security and processing of a crime scene associated with 4 homicides. Upon our arrival, the Idaho State Police forensics team was on scene and preparing to begin processing the scene. MPD Officer OFC Smith, one of the initial responding officers to the incident, advised he would walk me through the scene. OFC Smith and I entered the King Road residence through the bottom floor on the north side of the building. OFC Smith and I then walked upstairs to the second floor. OFC Smith directed me down the hallway to the west bedroom of the second floor, which I later learned through Xana's driver's license and other personal belongings found in the room was Xana Kernoodle's, hereafter Kernoodle Room. Just before this room, there was a bathroom door on the south wall of the hallway. As I approached the room, I could see a body, later identified as Kernoodle's, laying on the floor. Kernoodle was deceased with wounds which appeared to have been caused by an edged weapon. Also in the room was a male, later identified as Ethan Chapin, hereafter Chapin. Chapin was also deceased with wounds later determined. Autopsy report provided by Spokane County Medical Examiner. Blank dated December 15, 2022, to be caused by sharp force injuries. Now, there's a whole redacted page somewhere in between that. I didn't print it. I didn't save it because it just says redacted on it, period. So they're not going to get into the details of what went on with Ethan. Let's continue. I then followed OFC Smith upstairs to the third floor of the residence. The third floor consisted of 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The bedroom on the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee Gonzalez, hereafter Gonzalez room. I later learned from review of Officer Noon's body camera there was a dog in the room when Moscow police officers initially responded. The dog belonged to Gonzalez and her ex-boyfriend Jack Decor. I found out from my interview with Jack Decor on November 13, 2022 that he and Gonzalez shared the dog. OFC Smith then pointed out a small bathroom on the east side of the third floor. This bathroom shared a wall with Madison Mogan, hereafter Mogan, bedroom, which was situated on the southeast corner of the third floor. As I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in a single bed in the room. Both Gonzalez and Mogan were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying next to the bed, next to Mogan's right side, when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had K-Bar, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA, suspected profile, left on the bottom snap of the knife sheath. As part of the investigation, numerous interviews were conducted by Moscow Police Department officers, Idaho State Police detectives, and FBI agents. Two of the interviews included BF and DM. Both BF and DM were inside the King Road residence at the time of the homicides and were roommates to the victims. BF's bedroom was located on the east side of the first floor of the King Road residence. So in case it wasn't super clear there for you, BF and DM, they're talking about the roommates, Dylan Morrison and Bethany Funk. Based on numerous interviews conducted by MPD officers, ISP detectives, and FBI agents as well as my review of evidence, I have learned the following. On the evening of November 12, 2022, Chapin and Kernoodle are seen by BF at the Sigma Chi House on the University of Idaho campus, 735 Nez Pierce Drive, from approximately 9 p.m. on November 12th to 1:45 a.m. on November 13th. BF also estimated that at approximately 1:45, Chapin and Kernoodle returned to the King Road residence. BF also stated that Chapin did not live in the King Road residence, but was a guest of Kernoodle. Okay, so let's talk about a few things. The knife sheath that they found, right? They found the knife sheath beside Maddie Mogan. Now, this knife sheath was a K-Bar knife sheath. That's why everybody said it was done with a K-Bar knife. Now, I was always kind of wondering about that because I'm a knife guy. I collect knives. This channel was started as a knife channel. If you don't believe me, go back and look at the first videos on it. They're not very good, but they're a lot of high quality knives. So when they found the sheath, they had something that the suspect probably left behind, right? These victims were stabbed and there's a knife sheath laying on the ground. When they tested that knife sheath, they found male DNA on the bottom little button where you snap it on, I guess. So, they find male DNA from the knife sheath. That's important because I know we're going to get into where that DNA connects to Bryan here in a little bit. Let's continue. Gonzalez and Mogan were at a local bar, the Corner Club, at 202 North Main Street in Moscow. Gonzalez and Mogan can be seen on video footage provided by the Corner Club between 10 p.m. on November 12th and 1:30 a.m. on November 13th. At approximately 1:30 a.m., Gonzalez and Mogan can be seen on video at a local food vendor called the Grub Truck at 318 South Main Street in downtown Moscow. The Grub Truck live streams video from their food truck on the streaming platform Twitch, which is available for public viewing on their website. This video was captured by law enforcement. A private party, redacted, reported that he provided a ride to Gonzalez and Mogan at approximately 1:56 a.m. from downtown Moscow in front of the Grub Truck to the King Road residence. DM and BF both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were at home by 2 a.m. and asleep or at least in their rooms by approximately 4 a.m. This is with the exception of Kernoodle, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. Law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who reported this information. DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Gonzalez playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, DM said that she heard who she thought was Gonzalez say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of the records obtained from a forensics download of Kernoodle's phone showed this could have also been Kernoodle, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. DM stated she looked out her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. DM stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernoodle's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At approximately 4:17, a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of the 1122 King Road, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. DM stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose, walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen, shocked phase. The male walked toward the backsliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. What? Okay, so obviously I heard this before I just read it, but I didn't hear it the way I just read it. So she opened the door 3 times because she thought she heard something. The last time she thought she heard somebody crying and a man say, "It's okay, I'm here to help." And then she opens the door. She sees a man that she doesn't know wearing a mask, dressed all in black, walking toward her. She froze. Then he walks out the house, even though she's standing right there and he just murdered 4 other people. He walks out the house. She goes in her bedroom, locks the door, and what? Goes to sleep? Really? Really? That makes no sense. How did she go in there and go to sleep after just seeing an intruder, hearing her friends upstairs crying? She never went to go check? She didn't think to call 911? What is that? That is insane to me. Now, I know people handle shit differently. I know some people go through shock and trauma and they do crazy things, and maybe that's the case here. I don't want to get into blaming her for not doing something. I mean, they were most likely already dead. The autopsy and stuff reportedly said that, it would have been a quick death. So it's not like she could have saved their lives. But just my mind trying to process the fact that this girl came out of her room after hearing her friend cry, sees a strange man with a mask dressed all in black walking out of her house. He walks past her, doesn't touch her. He goes out the door, and then she goes in her room, locks the door. She didn't wake the other roommate up. She didn't call 911. She didn't call anybody else to come over and make sure it was okay. She just stayed in her bedroom with the door locked until lunchtime the next day before she even went to go check and see if her friends were okay. What are we talking about? How does that happen? How is that even part of this story? Like, that's mind-blowing to me. I don't understand it. We'll come back to it. Let's finish reading. The combination of DM's statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensics downloads of records from BF and DM's phone, and video of a suspect video as described below leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. During the process of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the ISP forensics team by first using a presumptive blood test and then amino black, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detected shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern, similar to the pattern of a Vans-type shoe sole, just outside of the door of DM's bedroom, located on the 2nd floor. This is consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. As part of the investigation, an extensive search, commonly referred to in law enforcement as a video canvass, was conducted in the area of the King Road residence. This video canvass was to obtain any footage from the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, in the area of the King Road residence and surrounding neighborhoods in an effort to locate the suspect or suspect's vehicle traveling to or leaving from the King Road residence. This video canvas resulted in the collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and business addresses. I have reviewed numerous videos that were collected and have had conversations with other MPD officers, ISP detectives, and FBI agents that are similarly reviewing footage that was obtained. A review of camera footage indicated that a white sedan, hereafter suspect vehicle, was observed traveling westbound in the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive in Moscow at approximately 3:26 a.m. and westbound on Steiner Avenue at Idaho State Highway 95 in Moscow at approximately 3:28. On this video, it appears suspect vehicle was not displaying a front license plate. A review of footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicles starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. These sightings show suspect vehicle makes an initial 3 passes by the 1122 King Road residence and then leaves via Walentania Drive. Based off of my experience as a patrol officer, this is a residential neighborhood with very limited number of vehicles that travel in the area during the early morning hours. Upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit this area during this time frame. Okay, so the suspect's car, the white Hyundai Elantra, this is why police were so sure that whoever was driving that car was connected. Because that car was back and forth in a residential neighborhood that usually doesn't have a lot of pass-through traffic. Makes sense. Now, I believe that in this, we have really found out that they have known about Bryan, or at least Bryan's description, from the very beginning. Dylan told them exactly what it was. Was it a male? Was it a female? Was it one person? She told them all of that. Now, obviously, they didn't know if there was also other people that she didn't see. But as far as who the suspect was, what the suspect looked like, the description of the suspect, they knew. They probably didn't tell us because they didn't want to alert the suspect to go back and try to harm Dylan in some way before she could identify him in court. I don't know. That's a guess. I'm just saying. Suspect vehicle can be seen entering the area a fourth time at approximately 4:04 a.m. It can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of a 500 Queen Road, number 52, and then driving back westbound on King Road. When suspect vehicle is in front of the King Road residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen Road and King Road, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn and then driving eastbound again down Queen Road. Suspect vehicle is next seen departing the area of King Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. at a high rate of speed. Suspect vehicle is next observed traveling southbound on Walentania Drive. Based on my knowledge of the area and review of camera footage in the neighborhood that does not show suspect vehicle during that time frame, I believe that suspect vehicle likely exited the neighborhood at Palouse River Drive and Conestoga Drive. Palouse River Drive is at the southern edge of Moscow and proceeds into Whitman County, Washington. Eventually, the road leads to Pullman, Washington. Pullman, Washington is approximately 10 miles from Moscow, Idaho. Both Pullman and Moscow are small college towns, and people commonly travel back and forth between them. Law enforcement officers provided video footage of suspect vehicle to forensic examiners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation that regularly utilize surveillance footage to identify the year, make, and model of an unknown vehicle that is observed by one or more cameras during the commission of a criminal offense. The forensics examiner has approximately 35 years law enforcement experience with 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles, and he uses a database that gives visual clues of vehicles across states to identify differences between vehicles. After reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle, the forensics examiner initially believed that the suspect vehicle was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Upon further review, he indicated that it could also be a 2011 through 2016 Hyundai Elantra. As a result, investigators have been reviewing information on persons in possession of a vehicle that is a 2011 to 2016 white Hyundai Elantra. So they knew about the car. They've known about this car since they started rounding up evidence. They have been watching him. The other day, remember, I said I believe they've known about this Bryan guy for a lot longer than the last couple weeks. I believe it's at least ever since they said something about the car. But, see what they did was they announced the 2011 to 2013 car. That probably made Bryan feel a lot better. But in reality, it could have been a 2011 through 2016 car. So then, he's got more confidence thinking everybody's looking for a car that's older than mine. When in reality, the police were looking for exactly what he was driving. Somebody who meets exactly his description. They were playing chess. He was playing checkers. Investigators were given access to video footage on the Washington State University campus located in Pullman, Washington. A review of that video indicated that at approximately 2:44 a.m. on November 13, 2022, a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the white Elantra known as suspect vehicle, was observed on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north on Southeast Nevada Street at Northeast Stadium Way. That's a mouthful. At approximately 2:53 a.m., a white sedan, which is consistent with the description of the white Elantra known as suspect vehicle, was observed traveling southeast on Nevada Street in Pullman, Washington, towards SR 270. SR 270 connects Pullman, Washington to Moscow, Idaho. This camera footage from the Pullman, Washington was provided to the same FBI forensics examiner. The forensics examiner identified the vehicle observed in Pullman, Washington as being a 2014 through 2016 Hyundai Elantra. At approximately 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the suspect vehicle, was observed on 5 cameras in Pullman, Washington, and on WSU campus cameras. The first camera that recorded the white sedan was located at 1300 Johnson Road in Pullman. The white sedan was observed traveling northbound on Johnson Road. Johnson Road leads directly back to the West Palace River Drive in Moscow, which intersects with Conestoga Drive. The white sedan was then observed turning north on Bishop Boulevard and northwest on SR 270. At approximately 5:27 a.m., the white Elantra was observed on cameras traveling northbound on Stadium Way at Nevada Street, Stadium Way at Grimes Way, Stadium Drive at Wilson Road, and Stadium Way at Cougar Way. Depiction showing Moscow and Pullman. Alright, so that's our depiction of Moscow and Pullman. So that's how close they are. They're pretty close. 10 miles separates WSU and U of I, right? So it's not that far away. They're basically neighbors. Like I said before, it's all one big college town. On November 25th, 2022, MPD asked area law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra in the area. On November 29, 2022, at approximately 12:28 a.m., Washington State University police officer Daniel Tiengo queried with Elantras registered at WSU. As a result of that query, he located a 2015 white Elantra with a Pennsylvania license plate LFZ-8649. This vehicle was registered to Bryan Kohberger, hereafter Kohberger, residing at 1630 Northeast Valley Road, Apartment 201, Pullman, Washington, 1630 Northeast Valley Road is approximately 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Stadium Way and Cougar Way, last camera location that picked up the white Elantra. The same day at approximately 12:58 a.m., WSU officer Curtis Whitman was looking for white Hyundai Elantras located a 2015 white Elantra at 1630 Northeast Valley Road in Pullman in the parking lot. 1630 Northeast Valley Road is an apartment complex that houses WSU students. Officer Whitman also ran the car, and it returned to Kohberger with a Washington tag. I reviewed Kohberger's Washington State driver's license information and photograph. This license identifies that Kohberger is a white male with a height of 6 foot and weighs 185 pounds. Additionally, the photograph of Kohberger shows that he has bushy eyebrows. Kohberger's physical description is consistent with the description of the male DM saw inside the King Road residence on November 13th. Okay, so one cop on that same day saw him with his Pennsylvania license plates on his car. And then another cop later that day saw the same car with Washington license plates. So then those two cops saw the same car with different license plates. If they're communicating together, then they're like, he changed his plates from Pennsylvania plates to Washington plates. Why would he do that? Why? Of course, you're looking at the car they're looking for, a guy who matches the description of the person that the roommate saw in the house, and then suddenly you've got that person switching out tags on their cars. He did change to Washington, so I guess maybe he could say that he went and got a new tag for his car and he just switched over to Washington plates since he was living in Washington now. But I highly doubt that he went to the courthouse and told them, hey, I own a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. I need a tag. You know what I mean? Further investigation, including a review of Latah County Sheriff's Deputy CPL Duke's body cam and report, showed that on August 21st, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop that occurred in Moscow, Idaho by Corporal Duke. At the time, Kohberger, who was the sole occupant, was driving a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania license plate LFZ 8649, which was set to expire on November 30th, 2022. During the stop, which was recorded via a law enforcement body camera, Kohberger provided his phone number as blank 8458, hereafter the 8458 phone, as his cellular telephone number. Investigators conducted electronic database queries and learned that the 8458 phone is a number issued by AT&T. Okay, so he switched his tag. I should have read a little bit farther, huh? But he switched his tag, and his tag was set to expire November 30th. Remember, he committed these crimes on November 13th. So it doesn't seem like it would be that big of a stretch that he would switch his tag right in that time frame after all. I'm just pointing this out. I understand that me and you both look at that and we're like, oh yeah, that's suspect as hell. But a defense lawyer can justify him switching his tags on or around those dates when the tags expired on November 30th. On October 14th, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop by a WSU police officer. Upon review of that body cam and report of the stop, Kohberger was the sole occupant and was driving a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania license plate LFZ 8649. On November 18th, 2022, according to Washington State Licensing, Kohberger registered the 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Washington and later received Washington plate CFB 8708. Prior to this, the 2015 white Elantra was registered in Pennsylvania, which does not require a front license plate to be displayed. This was learned through communications with a Pennsylvania officer who is currently certified in the state of Pennsylvania. Based on my own experience and communication with Washington law enforcement, I know that Idaho and Washington require front and back license plates to be displayed. Alright, so in Pennsylvania, you only have to have a tag on the back of your car. That's the same way it is down here in Alabama. I know it's different all over the country, all over the world for that matter, but in Alabama and in Pennsylvania, you only have to have the tag on the rear of your car. One tag. You don't have to have front and back plates. But in Washington and Idaho, you're supposed to have a tag on the front of your car and the back of your car. He didn't. That's why the car that they saw didn't have a front license plate. His car is registered in Pennsylvania up until he changed the plates and put the Washington plate on. Investigators believe that Kohberger is still driving the 2015 white Elantra because his vehicle was captured on December 13th, 2022 by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado. Information provided by a query to a database. Kohberger's Elantra was then queried on December 15th, 2022 by law enforcement in Hancock County, Indiana. On December 16th, 2022 at approximately 2:26 p.m., surveillance video showed Kohberger's Elantra in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. The sole occupant of the vehicle was a white male whose description was consistent with Kohberger. Kohberger has family in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. Learned through a TLO search and locate tool database query. Okay, so they caught his car in Colorado on December the 13th. Then, the police pullovers and stuff, he went through Indiana on December 15th. And then he was back in Pennsylvania on December 16th. So he made it back to Pennsylvania right after we saw that body cam footage. They did drive straight there. It looks like they made good time, actually. And that lets us kind of know that they were tracking him across where he was going. They believed he was still driving the car. The person driving the car matched the description of Bryan, and they were getting pings from anywhere that his tag was caught on camera or in any database from the police departments, including Colorado, Pennsylvania, and Indiana, where they had pulled him over twice. Based on information provided on the WSU website, Kohberger is currently a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for Pullman Police Department, we learned that Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. These records also show Kohberger wrote an essay when he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. Kohberger wrote in his essay he had interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. Kohberger also posted a Reddit survey which can be found by an open source internet search. The survey asked for participants to provide information to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime. Hold up. That's some stuff right there. Trying not to curse, trying not to say any bad words. So he also has undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. So he is a forensics expert. Who would have thunk it? Now, so he's got a master's in criminal justice, an undergraduate degree in psychology and cloud-based forensics. He applied for the Pullman Police Department because he wanted to help police understand technological data. That's insane. Can you imagine? I mean, this guy wanted to assist he wanted to be a cop, right? He's going to college for criminal justice, criminology. He wants to do all this. What? How does he flip? Or, hold on a minute, my mind's starting to turn. Was he planning on trying to get on the inside so that when he did commit crimes, he could throw off the investigation from the inside? Was he trying to get in and figure out how they do things so that he could do it another way and get away with it? That's crazy, huh? That's insane. Like, I need to take a second there from reading this because I'm trying to go really fast because I know this is going to be a long video. It's already been a long video. I appreciate it if you're still here. Like, means the world to me. But that's big. Like, he applied for the police department. He wanted to, like, that's big. Like, he applied for an internship with the police department. He wanted to come into the police department in Pullman, Washington. Now, it's important to remember that he just moved there. He's from Pennsylvania. Remember that. He just came to Washington State University after he got his degree, right? He come here to get his PhD in criminology. So he gets here, and then he's applying for the police department, and then in like 2 months, he goes and he murders 4 people. Man, that's so strange. As part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the King Road residence on November 13th, 2022, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. After determining that Kohberger was associated to both the 2015 white Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrant returns. A query of the 8458 phone in these returns did not show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular tower resources in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Based on my training, experience, and conversations with law enforcement officers that specialize in the utilization of cellular telephone records as part of the investigations, individuals can either leave their cellular telephone at a different location before committing a crime, or turn their cellular telephone off prior to going to a location to commit a crime. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement that a cellular device associated with them was in a particular area where the crime is committed. I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will surveil an area where they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. Depending on the circumstances, this could be done a few days before or for several months prior to the commission of a crime. During these types of surveillance, it is possible that an individual would not leave their cellular telephone at a separate location or turn it off since they do not plan to commit the offense on that particular day. On December 23, 2022, I applied for and was granted a search warrant for historical phone records between November 12, 2022 at 12 a.m. and November 14th at 12 a.m. for the 8458 phone held by the phone provider AT&T approximately 24 hours preceding and following the times of the homicides. On December 23, 2022, pursuant to that search warrant, I received records for the 8458 phone from AT&T. These records indicated that the 8458 phone is subscribed to Bryan Kohberger at an address in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and the account has been open since June 23, 2022. These records also included historical cell site location information for the 8458 phone. After receiving this information, I consulted with an FBI special agent that is certified as a member of the Cellular Analysis Survey Team. Members of CAST are certified with the FBI to provide expert testimony in the field of historical CSLI and are required to pass extensive training that includes both written and practical examinations prior to be certified with CAST, as well as the completion of yearly certification requirements. Additionally, the FBI CAST SA that I consulted with has over 15 years of federal law enforcement experience, which includes 6 years with the FBI. From information provided by CAST, I was able to determine the estimated locations for the 8458 phone from November 12, 2022 to November 13, 2022, the time period authorized by the court. Okay, so it seems like before they had him nailed down, they could only get 24 hours before and 24 hours after the crime. That's all the court would allow them to go in and check his records. On November 13, 2022, at approximately 2:42 a.m., the 8458 phone was utilizing cellular resources that provided coverage to 1630 Northeast Valley Road, apartment G201, Pullman, Washington, hereafter the Kohberger residence. At approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provided coverage southeast of the Kohberger residence, consistent with the 8458 phone leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south through Pullman, Washington. This is consistent with the movement of the white Elantra. At approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone stops reporting to the network, which is consistent with either the phone being in an area without cellular coverage, the connection to the network is disabled, such as putting the phone in airplane mode, or that the phone is turned off. The 8458 phone does not report to the network again until approximately 4:48 a.m., at which time it utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Idaho State Highway 95, south of Moscow, Idaho, near Blaine, Idaho, north of Genesee. Between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., the phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling south on Idaho State Highway 95 to Genesee, Idaho, then traveling west toward Uniontown, Idaho, and then north back into Pullman, Washington. At approximately 5:30 a.m., the 8458 phone is utilizing resources that provide coverage to Pullman, Washington, and consistent with the phone traveling back to the Kohberger residence. The 8458 phone's movements are consistent with the movements of the white Elantra that is observed traveling north on Stadium Drive at approximately 5:27 a.m. Based on a review of the 8458 phone's estimated locations and travel, the 8458 phone travel is consistent with that of the white Elantra. Okay, so they pinged his phone, leaving his house, headed toward Moscow. Then they didn't get any more phone pings until after the murders had taken place, and he was traveling back out. He was going home, but he didn't just turn around and go back the same way. He made a whole little loop-de-loop. He comes around and goes back around to Pullman. So instead of him coming in and then going back out, he came in and made a big loop back to his house. Further review indicated that the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13, 2022 that are consistent with the 8458 phone leaving the area of the Kohberger residence at approximately 9 a.m. and traveling to Moscow, Idaho. Specifically, the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residence between 9:12 a.m. and 9:21 a.m. The 8458 phone next utilized cellular resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling back to the area of the Kohberger residence and arriving at the area at approximately 9:32 a.m. Ho ho! Okay, so now, after his car and his phone has already headed toward Moscow, turned off, and then made a big loop back to his house, at 9 o'clock he leaves his house and goes back to Moscow and is in the area of the residence between 9:12 and 9:21 a.m. Like what, watching, seeing if the cops are there yet? I mean, you have to imagine. He come out, the roommate saw him. He knows somebody saw him in the residence. He leaves. Instead of killing that person too, thank God he didn't. But instead of that, he left. Then he comes back to come check out the scene, probably expecting it to be police everywhere and all kinds of shit going on. Probably trying to put his car in there so if people say, hey, I saw a white Elantra, yeah, it was here during this time, during that time, whatever. But that's insane. He came back. He had to be coming back to check and see if the cops were there. Or he might have been coming back to get the sheep that he lost. I highly doubt that, though, because I feel like if he was going to do that, he got home. Let's see. I don't know. Let's think about that. He leaves there. He goes home. He gets home at like 5:30, right? Then he turns around, realizes he lost his sheep. He drives back. There's no cops there. There's nothing. But he doesn't go in. I mean, he saw Dylan, though. He knows Dylan saw him, right? Didn't she see him? If she saw his eyebrows, then he had to see her too. I don't think that she's looking at his face while he's walking out from just committing this crime and he doesn't notice her as he walks by her. I don't see that as possible. He had to know that she saw him. So he was probably coming back. Yeah, he was probably coming back to like see what was going on, see all the cops and see the whole big thing going on where he just went and killed these 4 people. But nobody was there because they hadn't called the cops yet. The 911 call wasn't until 12 a.m., which is still super strange. I mean, imagine what he was thinking right then. I know this person heard something. I know this person saw me, and they haven't even called the cops. Did they know who I was? I mean, just imagine what he was thinking. I'm so lost on this. Like, I don't understand how Dylan didn't call the cops. I don't want to, like, blame her. I'm trying not to. I get it. People deal with stuff different ways. But it just doesn't make sense. Like, I heard my friend. I heard her say somebody was here. Then I heard him crying. Then I heard some male's voice say, it's okay, I'm going to help you. And then I look outside again and I see this guy with a mask dressed all in black walking out. And he walks right by me, doesn't do anything to me, doesn't say anything to me, and goes out the sliding glass door. I mean, does it make sense to you? I'm sorry, I know I'm not looking at the camera a lot right now, but like, my mind is warping. This is messing me up. Like, I'm trying to like make sense of it, but it just doesn't make sense. All logic out the window right now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad he didn't hurt the girl, but why did he not? It's so confusing. Below is a depiction, not to scale, of the possible route taken based off of the cellular site locations. So this is how he went. You know, he goes, big loop, basically. Big loop right back to where he was. The missing part right there, that's King Road. That's where his phone was off. Investigators found that the 8458 phone did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th, 2022, but investigators do not believe the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date. The 8458 phone has not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that date, so he hasn't been back. Based on my training, experience, and the facts of the investigation thus far, I believe that Kohberger, the user of the 8458 phone, was likely the driver of the white Elantra that is observed departing Pullman, Washington, and that this vehicle is likely suspect vehicle. Additionally, the route of travel of the 8458 phone during the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, and the lack of the 8458 phone reporting to AT&T between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. is consistent with the Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide that occurred at the King Road residence. On December 23, 2022, I was granted a search warrant for Kohberger's historical CSLI from June 23, 2022 to current. Prospective location information and a PIN registration trap and trace on the 8458 phone to aid in efforts to determine if Kohberger stalked any of the victims in this case prior to the offense, conducted surveillance on the King Road residence, was in contact with any of the victims' associates before or after the alleged offense, any locations that may contain evidence of the murders that occurred on November 13, 2022. The location of the white Elantra registered to Kohberger, as well as the location of Kohberger. On December 23, 2022, pursuant to that search warrant, I received historical records for the 8458 phone from AT&T from the time the account was opened in June 2022. After consulting with the CAST SA, I was able to determine estimated locations for the 8458 phone from June 2022 to present, the time period authorized by the court. The record for the 8458 phone showed the 8458 phone utilizing cellular resources that provided coverage to the area of 1122 King Road on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13, 2022. All of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours of their respective days. So, they do have phone pings of him in the area of the house 12 times before the murders took place. So he was watching, he was stalking, he was planning. At least that's what it seems to be. 12 times. Now I know that he might possibly know somebody else in that area, but I doubt it. If he's in that area, it might be that he knows somebody else, but it's most likely him watching the people who are going to become his victims. One of these occasions, on August 21st, 2022, the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources providing coverage to the King Road residence from approximately 10:34 p.m. to 11:35 p.m. At approximately 11:37 p.m., Kohberger was stopped by Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Corporal Duke. The 8548 phone was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location of the traffic stop during this time, Farm Road and Pullman Highway. Further analysis of the cellular data provided shows the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13, 2022, consistent with the phone traveling from Pullman, Washington to Lewiston, Idaho, via U.S. Highway 195. At approximately 12:36 p.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to Kate's Cup of Joe coffee stand located at 810 Port Drive, Clarkston, Washington. Surveillance footage from the U.S. Chef store located at 820 Port Drive, Clarkston, Washington, and adjacent to Kate's Cup of Joe showed a white Elantra consistent with the suspect vehicle drive past Kate's Cup of Joe at a time consistent with the cellular data from the 8548 phone. That's the second time they did that. That's really bothering me that they've got 8458, 8548, just back and forth, back and forth. That's bothersome. Like, it's hard trying to read it. It throws me off. But I wonder, that's not a mistake that matters, is it? I mean, this is just the affidavit, right? It's not something they could use to try to throw this out, because what I'm reading makes it feel like they've got this guy, right? But the more you think about it, they have all this evidence, and a lot of it is circumstantial. Like, the DNA, they might be able to nail him to the wall on the DNA, and hopefully they can. But it's not much DNA. And then the cell phone records, they've got all this travel and all the pings, and obviously it makes sense. But beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what we have to remember. As obvious as it could seem, a jury still has to find beyond a reasonable doubt. Not beyond any doubt. Not beyond the doubt like, oh, well, I mean, it could happen. It's a 1 in a bajillion chance that he's not the person, but a reasonable doubt. And the fact that he did turn his phone off in that area, they don't have phone pings of him in that area at the time of the murders. Now, the circumstantial evidence of that is that, well, obviously he turned his phone off, and that's why it's not pinging during that time while he was in that area. And then there's an obvious route that he seems to have taken based off of the cameras and the other phone pings and everything else that we can make everything out. But how solid is that? Beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not really trying to make an argument here. I'm just, like I said, this is the first time that I'm reading this. I've heard little clips of this and that from the news, but I haven't, this is new to me. At approximately 12:46 p.m., the 8458 phone then utilized cellular data in the area of the Albertsons grocery store at 400 Bridge Street in Clarkston, Washington. Surveillance footage obtained from Albertsons showed Kohberger exit the white Elantra consistent with suspect vehicle at approximately 12:49 p.m. Interior surveillance cameras showed Kohberger walk through the store, purchase unknown items at the checkout, and leave at approximately 1:04 p.m. Kohberger's possible path of travel is depicted below. Additional analysis of records from the 8458 phone indicated that between approximately 5:32 p.m. and 5:36 p.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Johnson, Idaho. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network from approximately 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. That is consistent with the 8458 phone being in the area that the 8458 phone traveled in the hours immediately following the suspected time of the homicides occurred. Wait, what? I'm missing something there. I'm not understanding what they're saying there. On December 27, 2022, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from the Kohberger family residence located in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. On December 28, 2022, the Idaho State Lab reported that a DNA profile obtained from the trash and the DNA profile obtained from the sheath identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of suspect profile. At least 99.9998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being the suspect's biological father. Based on the above information, I am requesting an arrest warrant to be issued for Bryan C. Kohberger, date of birth 11/21/1994, for burglary at 1122 King Street in Moscow, Idaho, and 4 counts of murder in the first degree for the murders of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. I declare under penalty of perjury pursuant to the law of the state of Idaho that the foregoing is true and correct. That's the affidavit. That's the whole affidavit. There's a whole lot that jumps out to me about that. It's a lot of reading, so I didn't want to stop too many times. Obviously, we're going to talk about a lot more things that are in this so we can expand further. And we're definitely going to talk about Dylan seeing the killer in the house and just going in the room and locking the door and not calling the cops and not calling nobody else and just not even going to check on her friends after hearing them crying and seeing some strange man wearing a mask in the house. I don't get that. I'm trying my best. I'm trying not to go. I've took up for Dylan and Bethany the whole time. I've been like, there's no way they're involved. Why would they? They were all friends. They're there. And I'm not saying that she's involved in any way. I'm just mind blown at her actions. How does that work? Did her brain shut down from fear? And she didn't think hey, This could have happened. Hey, my friend, I heard noises that sounded like Kaylee playing with the dog. Then I heard noises that sounded like my friend crying. And then when I looked out for the third time, some guy walked past me and went out. So I just go in my bedroom and lock the door, and I don't even go check for like 7 hours. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to see more, hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I post. Have a great day, and we'll see you later.